Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of the Bench Mob ENT podcast. We got a special one for y'all tonight. So happy to be here. It's a lot that we got to talk about, a lot we got to touch on. Just like, everybody has different things that they love in their life. This podcast and stuff, I love this. I do this for free. Of course, one day we're going to get paid, but I do this for free. I love this podcast. I love every week coming on here, doing the research, getting ready for the show. So we got a real good one for y'all tonight. Fellas, how y'all doing?
I'm good, bro. I'm good. I'm better than Miles right now. Watching this Knicks game, pretty freaking out.
I'm not freaking out, but my heart rate is on 10 right now.
I would rather be.
For those that's watching, y'all listening, Miles is a Knicks fan, and he locked in with y'all. So he rocked with us. He committed like that. We gonna touch on NFL draft first. NFL draft has happened. All 14 rounds are complete now. Who are some of? We're gonna start off with the winners. Who are some of the winners of the NFL draft for y'all after it's happened? What teams are looking the best? Who's the winners?
Well, me, I think the Eagles are a clear-cut winner. I think every year they find a way to win the draft, trading up and getting Cooper DeJean and just adding the other players they added. Quinyon Mitchell, the best corner in the draft. They went and revamped their defensive backfield. And, it's funny because I had been saying when they signed Saquon Barkley that I thought the weakness of their team was the defensive backfield. And that was where they got exposed. And they went out and they completely revamped it in the draft. So got to give them credit. They added another running back. Another running back and Shipley from Clemson and to back up Saquon as well. And Lord knows they'll need backup for him because he does tend to spend the time on the shelf. That's his thing. So we'll see how that goes over in Philly for him. But in all seriousness, they had a great draft. So I think Philly won. And I think, when you look at the Bears, you got to love what they did too. Getting Rome Odunze and getting Caleb Williams, they've supported that guy. They supported him. They've put a nice infrastructure around him. As well over in Chicago. And it's tough. You walk in, there's a lot of pressure on that guy in year one. And he's very comfortable in his interviews, wearing the hat backwards, even the way he talks to Ryan Poles. Like it's like he's been there. He's been prepping for this his entire life. And I feel very confident in his ability as well. So I think that the Bears, you look at that team, another team that really did a great job in insulating Caleb Williams and really making sure that he's supported in year one and can be successful. So I'm really looking forward to watching them play and seeing what they do. I don't want to cover any of our teams in this segment. I won't talk about the Giants. At least I won't, because that's a whole different conversation to me. We'll get there. But the Bears, the Eagles are two big winners for me, and there are other ones too. But I'll let the other guys jump in and say their piece.
Hey, you said I won't talk about the Giants. Acting as if we gonna talk about the Giants because that's what we damn.
No, I'm saying
talk about.
You heard.
Right? That's what we damn.
You sound crazy. You sound crazy on tape right
the
now.
Bears, the Bears. Whose man's is that? Whose man's is that? I know. Justin Fields mad. I know he's big mad. Right here, you go get Caleb Williams drafted. They do everything to support him, as you mentioned. And the Steelers over here talking about making Justin Fields return kicks. What are we talking about, man? But to that point, I think the Steelers had a great draft. I really do. I think they're a team that is understanding and in the know of kind of what they want and how they want to move forward with the pieces that they have. They didn't play any games this offseason when they shipped out Kenny Pickett and brought in Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, right? Despite what they're still trying to figure out in terms of how to get Justin Fields on the field. But in regards to what they did in this draft, man, the three of their first 5 picks, they go interior offensive line, right? Getting Troy Fautanu, who's going to be a big piece for them. They get the second best center in Zach Frazier in the draft, and then they add another piece later in the draft with their 4th or 5th pick. And I think that's getting back to what the Steelers used to do so well, right? Is the trenches, being a force up front, having your running backs play smash mouth football, run the ball down your throat, pause, and no Diddy, bro. I think I think just everything that they're doing just screams that they're trying to get Najee Harris going this year, right? And TJ Warren going this year, not knowing what you're going to get at the quarterback position. Obviously, they hope Russ can play at a high level, but again, three offensive linemen with your first 5 picks, that just screams, hey, let's get back to playing mouth mash football. Let's become a dominant team in the AFC North. We know the AFC North is a division where, you know, it's toughness. It's all about toughness. It's all about, you know, hard-hitting football and, you know, getting Rome Odunze as well as a skill player that can add value for them because their receiving core is not great, right? They still need to find that veteran piece, I think, that can come in and be dominant on that receiving front.
The Bears?
No, the Steelers.
Oh, okay.
The Steelers. But yeah, man, I think everything that the Steelers did up until this point, they had a great draft. And I say the Commanders too, by the way, if we're on that topic.
Yeah, they did.
Commanders had a great draft. Obviously, they go Jaden Daniels with their first pick, but they supported Jaden Daniels too, right? They get him a tight end in Senate who's going to be, you know, valuable to them. But on top of just getting your quarterback of the future, which gives you so much relief, like I think people forget what they did in free agency too, with the addition of Austin Eckler. He's going to be a big piece for them. And then you think about all the other pieces that they have on the outside and Jahan Dotson, Terry McLaurin, you know, Zach Ertz, right? And then you go on the defensive side in the draft, right, and start building your defense out, and you get one of the best corners in the draft, and you know, Newton, and that just pairs well with how their head coach operates, right? He's a defensive mind, Dan Quinn, and yeah, man, I think what the Commanders did in this draft is special. They clearly have a new identity, right? They cleaned house from ownership to GMs to everything, man. Just the players on their roster, and watch out for the Commanders because I think look, if we're talking about the NFC East, they might be a force to be reckoned with because I'm not impressed with what the Cowboys did. I'm not impressed with what they did in the offseason in terms of free agent signings. Right now they're bringing back Zeke. The Commanders could really be a force to be reckoned with when you talk about the NFC East and, you know, second fiddle to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, one of the teams that I really liked was the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm trying to multitask right now. Joe Alt's getting a 10-year vet. He's probably going to play 10, 15 years for this team. And you win in the trenches. You don't win by taking that top flight receiver. We see that with Detroit and Penei Sewell. They got their, you know, one of their receivers in the second round with Ladd McConkey, who I think is a stud, and he's going to be a really good receiver for them. You know, a security blanket for Justin Herbert. I mean, they still got what's his name coming back from TCU, the rookie from last year. Hopefully he develops a little bit. You kind of have to believe in your coaching staff to develop some of these guys. I mean, Jim Harbaugh is coming in, and you got to trust his philosophy. You got to trust that he knows what he's doing. So him taking the top flight tackle probably is the smartest thing to do rather than taking Neighbors and then Herbert's, you know, he's not injury prone, but he's missed some time with different injuries. So you'd like to protect your asset, your franchise quarterback. And then getting Brendan Rice in the 7th round, a guy I thought was going 4th round, and he just kept dropping. I'm like, he had a good year with Caleb. I feel like if you turned on the tape with Caleb, a lot of the touchdowns were being thrown to him. So he knows how to score. He's got the lineage, you know, Jerry Rice's son. So I believe that he's going to be a pretty solid piece on this team. Even if he doesn't do much this year, I think he's going to work his way in there at some point, either this year towards the end or next year. So yeah, that's one of my teams.
Now, when we look on the flip side of it, which where Greg probably might touch on with the New York Football Giants, the question marks or the losers of the draft this year, 2024, I know one, two that's going to go out there is, which I'd love to hear y'all perspective on it whenever y'all want to touch on it. The Falcons going with Penix at number 8, even though Kirk Cousins has been guaranteed $100 million. A lot of question marks in this draft, and some would say even losers.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Giants would be more towards a question mark than loser. I actually think the Giants had a good draft. With the players they took. It's just when you have a quarterback situation like the Giants have, where you have a quarterback that you don't believe in. And I don't think they believe in Daniel Jones as a franchise quarterback. In fact, I know they don't. I think we all know this. And you don't get the guy. It's tough. But they won their way out of position to get the quarterback. So I don't know. I think the guys that they did get in the Giants case, Theo Johnson in the 4th round of Penn State was tested athletically as one of the best athletes at the tight end position in the last 20 years. His raw athletic score was crazy. So I'm excited about him, excited about the safety from Minnesota, Tyler Nubin, excited about Malik Neighbors. You can't go. I mean, he's going to be really, really good. LSU wide receivers, we know what the pedigree is there. And so I got a lot of faith in Malik Neighbors' ability to change the offense. I think they're going to be a better team than they were last year when they had Saquon and Xavier McKinney because they've invested in premium positions, defensive end with Brian Burns, wide receiver Malik Neighbors, running back and doing it by committee. They got a guy from Purdue, Tyrone Tracy, who's a converted wide receiver who's super fast. People say he's like James Cook. That's like the comparison too. So I'm excited about that. You can get running backs at a dime a dozen. So I am excited about the direction of the team, and particularly offensively. And I think the only thing I found interesting about them, the nugget I heard about the Giants, is that the reason why they didn't go J.J. McCarthy or Michael Penix or Bo Nix, which would have pissed me off. But the reason why they didn't do that is because they were comparing those guys to Drew Lock and not Daniel Jones, which I found to be very interesting. And after I heard that, I did a little digging, and Drew Lock was in the same draft class as Kyler Murray and Daniel Jones. Drew Lock went 2nd round. Daniel Jones obviously got overdrafted, went 1st round when he should have went 3rd round. And so I think the Giants went out and got Drew Lock strategically because they had a higher grade on him in the 2019 draft originally. And so they just wanted to get him in the building because they liked his raw skills and they feel like they can work with him. And Daboll's done more with less with DeVito and guys like that. So it's exciting. I hope that Drew Lock wins the job, which may be a hot take to some Giants fans, but I hope he does. And beyond that, when you look at the team and their overall outlook, I think they're building a good team. Miles gave me a reminder of that in real time because I was pissed off when we didn't get that quarterback. We didn't get Drake May. But I do think they are building a team out that's going to be solid for the years to come. And hopefully they can get a quarterback in next year's draft. I am rooting for them to get a quarterback one way or another and a franchise guy. And in the interim, put a guy out there who's going to use every part of the field and exploit every part of the field, throw the ball to Neighbors, give him one-on-one opportunities. That's not Daniel Jones. I think that's more Drew Lock than Daniel Jones. So I hope that Drew Lock eventually is out there and playing for the Giants. But as far as actual question mark, enough about the Giants. I think that Penix situation is definitely a question mark. And I say that with an asterisk as because if Michael Penix is a franchise quarterback and hits, no one's going to care. No one's going to care. Those guys are going to be geniuses. Everyone's getting extended. Everyone's getting a raise. The food's going to taste better in the facility. The flights are going to be better. Everything, right? So it's just about him hitting. But it is weird, right? You just paid Kirk Cousins. You didn't tell him anything, which is weird. To treat a white quarterback that way is interesting. I've never heard of that before. That is interesting for them to treat him that way. Especially when he came there of his own free will and volition, right? And he chose to come to Atlanta and could have stayed in Minnesota as well. So it is interesting that they operated the way they did, but I don't think it's stupid. It may be some people feel like it's an overdraft for Michael Penix. I've always liked him more than most. I think he's one of the best natural passers we've seen in a long time. If the Giants took my 6, I wouldn't have been really upset. I think I could have gotten on board with that. So I actually like him more than Jaden Daniels, to be honest. So I'm not really upset about that transition, that move for them, and I understand it. But I do think it's a question mark because you're going to have a lot of drama training camp there.
Yeah, no, all good points. I think you hit the nail on the head with the Giants. No need to harp on that. Another team that I was a little disappointed with was the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? When you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars and you think about some of their needs, and they're in a position where, you know, if you draft really well, right, you can put yourself in a position to be at the top of your division and you know, have success for years to come. But I think they got too flashy in the first round with the draft of Brian Thomas. Brian Thomas Jr., who they took, I think, at number 17 is where they picked. And while Brian Thomas Jr. is a great wide receiver, you already have Christian Kirk, you have Gabe Davis, you have Calvin Ridley. Yes, you may go into that draft with saying, hey, I need a wide receiver, I need another weapon for our quarterback, right, Trevor Lawrence. But you also need help on the defensive side of the ball at cornerback. And we've seen what good cornerback play and secondary play can do for teams in terms of keeping games close, getting fourth down stops when teams are going for on passing downs. And, you know, they didn't draft a cornerback until the third round, and they took the kid from Florida State, I believe. I think Jerry and Jones. And when they picked Brian Thomas Jr., this is my problem with them. When they picked Brian Thomas Jr. at pick number 17, I believe, Cooper DeJean was still on the board. Terrion Arnold from Alabama was still on the board. Quinyon Mitchell was still on the board. They could have had their pick at, you know, whoever they thought was the best cornerback in the draft, and they passed on all those guys and waited till the third round with the 96th pick to go ahead and get their guy at corner, who's Jerry Jones from Florida State. And I just think that's silly, especially in a league where you need people on the defensive ball with all these talented wide receivers, Justin Jefferson, just all these guys that can make plays after play after play. You need a force on the defensive side of the ball that can match up with any one of those guys. And I don't know if Jerry Jones in the third round at the 96th pick is going to do it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the teams that I thought kind of bombed it was the Broncos. I know that Sean Payton tried to spin it as he was playing chess while, you know, trying to deke the Vikings into trading up or whatever it was. But so you're saying you were locked in on Bo Nix. That was your locked in guy that you want to build your future with.
Yeah.
A guy who his prime years were spent at Oregon. So I don't know about that. This guy's middle-aged. He's okay. I mean, we'll see how Sean Payton works this out with him. I honestly would have rolled this year with maybe Zach Stidham, but like to force a quarterback pick there when all the really good ones were off the board, I don't know. It didn't really make sense, and now you're on the hook for the next 4 years of Bo Nix. I mean, it's a cool name, cool football name, like, you know, Friday Night Lights or something like that. But to do the whole, we're going to try to take a quarterback, and then you're like paying Russell Wilson $40 million. It's just, I don't know. Sean Payton doesn't know. Everybody tries to make him this genius, this guru. But, I mean, if not for Drew Brees carrying him a few times, we wouldn't really be talking about how great this guy is, in my opinion.
What was y'all takes on before we close out on draft talk? What was y'all takes on a pick that kind of went under the radar? Some, you know, in regards of nobody saw it coming, especially being that one of the rivals, the Bills, traded with the Chiefs to give them this pick of Xavier Worthy to the Chiefs, that first round pick. Is that really a good pick, or is it kind of overhyped in regards of the speed and he could be like Tyreek Hill-esque with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes?
I think it was a good pick. I mean, if you look at his highlights, you watch the games, the film, like it's not like he's Nicole Hardman, he's a speed guy. He's just really fast. I mean, the Olympics are in the summer, so maybe he's preparing for the Olympics or something. But he's not a good receiver. But Worthy, though, he's not just speed. Like, he can run routes, he can catch the ball. This is an underrated pick for Kansas City. For them to be able to trade up and the Bills, why are you helping them? I don't understand it. Like, sure, you get more picks, but, like, it's just going to make the back-to-back Super Bowl champs even better. Like, you're gonna give them one of the better deep threats for one of the better deep threat throwers in the game. So I don't know. It was a confusing move at the time, and then they traded out of the first round with the Panthers to take Keon Coleman, who, I don't know, the kid from South Carolina I thought was a lot better.
Oh, Leggett?
Yeah, I think Leggett's a lot better than Keon Coleman.
I think
Keon's cool. He talks a good game, you know. The endorsements come rolling in with every soundbite. But let's see how he does in the NFL. Like, he's coming to a tough conference, a tough division. But it's really about the Chiefs. We're talking about the Chiefs, and I think they know what they're doing. They're nobody's gonna make them do something that they're not gonna do. And I'm sure they did extensive research on Worthy. It's funny, most of the mock drafts had him projected to them at 32 anyways, but I think the trade up was mainly to block any teams that wanted to block them. So
I think Keon's gonna be good, man. I think he was one of those guys who flew under the radar in the draft process, and people kind of slept on him because of his, 4.6 speed or whatever. But he plays a lot faster than that. When you watch him, he's physical, he's tall, he's dominated a lot of guys that are in the NFL now. A lot of these corners that have gone in recent drafts, and dominated. He's great at the catch point. He's strong, and he's a guy who wins the 50-50s the same way Rome Odunze does. So I think he has a good chance to be a good player, especially playing for Josh Allen. And getting him a large target is a good thing when you talk about him being a little bit erratic with his ball placement at times. Give a guy who's that tall and that big of a target, it helps him. Like getting him a tight end and putting him out there on the perimeter, letting him play. So it should be good. It should be a good matchup for them. I didn't really mind that move too much, Tone. I thought the Bills let everybody on that team go. The whole team left. They cleared out house and cleared cap. So when you do that, you're going to trade back in the draft to get more swings at this thing and more at bats. I didn't mind the approach as well. And I actually, to be honest, man, I like the Bills tree. I like those. What I mean by that is I like guys like Brandon Beane and the way he kind of operates. I think he's smart. I think he really takes a measured approach to the draft. And you can tell who the smart GMs in football are, right? You see it. The Eagles have potentially the best GM in football, and Howie Roseman.
Yes.
Right. And then you've got guys like Brandon Beane, and I think the Joe Shane, it comes off that tree. You've got those guys take smart, measured approaches to this thing. I love the fact that, and I'm not trying to bring it back to the Giants, but I like that they didn't force a quarterback pick. If you don't love any one of these other guys more than who you have on your roster, then don't do it. Don't do it just for the sake of doing it. Do it because you think this guy's going to be a top 5 receiver or top 5 quarterback in the league. He has top 5 potential. If he does not have top 5 quarterback potential in the NFL, do not draft him. Don't do it. There's no point. And that's why I hated the Bo Nix pick. I hated it because he doesn't have that. But I do think that Sean Payton can utilize his skill set and he's going to be productive. But will he ever be a guy that can lift them to a Super Bowl? I don't believe that. No, I think that was an arrogant pick by Sean Payton. I think that his arrogance may hurt him here as well. And I'm certainly not a Sean Payton fan. If you listen to this podcast, you know that. But I do think that there's a bit of arrogance to pick this guy and act as if he's going to definitively turn into a superstar just because you chose him, and then to insinuate that, you were trying to prop up JJ McCarthy in the process and blow smoke so that way teams could trade up for him in your place. I thought it was nonsensical. Like, hey, no one was trying to pick Bo Nix in your place that high, bro. Like, Bo Nix is going to fall to the second round. It reminds me of a Daniel Jones type overdraft, right? I don't love the move. He's older. He's definitely, I don't think he's peaked necessarily, but he's older. And I just don't love the physical tools there. But I do like what they did in the draft outside of getting him too. So, we'll see how it goes. The Commanders did a good draft. Like, I just want to touch on that. They had a great draft. They got the smartest corner in the draft, Mike Sandersill, who was literally calling out teams' routes as they were running it in college. Like, that's what they said about him over at Michigan. And so they had an annoyingly good draft. It's tough to see them be run well again. And that'll be really interesting to see how Jaden Daniels does with that coordinator, Cliff Kingsbury, being there, since we know he flamed out in Arizona. Let's see if he can get Jaden Daniels to use the middle of the field. I have my questions about Jaden Daniels as a quarterback. Doing my homework on him when I thought the Giants would get a quarterback. He was one of those guys I actually didn't really want because he takes hits running the football, and I don't think he does not throw the ball to the middle of the field. He doesn't do it. It's not an opinion; it's a fact.
Who's that?
Jaden Daniels. You have to. You have to in the NFL. That's where you make your money. The perimeter is just too tight. The boundary is too tight. Throwing it out there on the sidelines, and you don't have like a big X wide receiver. You have Terry McLaurin, who's amazing, but that's it, right? I know they added McCaffrey too, who I actually like. But I just have my questions about him long term as a great quarterback in this league. Because of those things, right? You got to be able to utilize the middle of the field. So I have my questions there and slide. So we'll see. Yeah, I could rant all day because I had a movie take about the draft.
Well, one thing that we didn't mention too about the Commanders, and I know we keep coming back to them, but they really did have a good draft. Is Johnny Newton? We forgot to talk about, right? He's a game wrecker.
You mean is it Jazon Newton?
It's Jazon Newton, but he goes by Johnny. So yeah, same player, and he's a game wrecker, man. He's violent, he's powerful, he fits everything that they want to do. You know, put him right there in the middle and let him do his thing. Like he's someone that fell out of the first round, and they were able to get him with the 36th pick. And it said that they took multiple trade offers to move back in the draft, and they stand pat and we're like, no, we're going to get our guy right now. And they just built a hell of a team with this draft in terms of what they were able to do with the picks that they had. And I'm really, really curious to see how they hold up in the division with the Cowboys, the Eagles, not necessarily the Giants, because you guys are in rebuilding mode, which is fair because they are too, essentially. But yeah, man, I think they just hit the draft out of the park. And then Brendan Rice, if we want to talk about like guys that drop, man, projected a 4th round pick, dropping to the 7th round. Get him with Justin Herbert. Watch. It's gonna take a little time, and they'll get him up to speed, man. You know who his father is Jerry Rice. Like, come on, if you think he's gonna come into the NFL not prepared, coming off a year where he had 12 touchdowns, over 790 plus receiving yards, like he's gonna be ready. He's gonna be a player that comes into this league and makes teams regret not picking him and letting him drop as far as he did. I really feel like he's going to have that sort of impact in his first year.
Hey, now we mentioned the Bills and GM being smart moves. Do you think though, with the Chiefs getting this pick, some of the other picks that happened specifically for the AFC, and how a lot of the teams in the AFC got better this year, has Josh Allen's Super Bowl window closed?
I don't think so. I think when you're as good as he is as a quarterback, and you have a guy who can be a top 5 or top 3 quarterback in the NFL in any given year, you have a chance to win every single year, no matter what's around them. And that's what you strive for. That's why that's the most important thing to address, is getting the right quarterback in the building. And once they hit on Josh Allen, once they hit on that pick, they were set up for success right away. So I know they're retooling around him, but that's exactly what they're doing. Make no mistake about it. They're retooling with him in his prime, and they're going to be competitive. I still would pick them to win the division because there's a constant there. But if Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers, then we can have a different discussion, and that's fine. And the Dolphins are going to be good too. But I just feel like the best quarterback in that division is Josh Allen. And to my point, you take the best you take the best quarterback when you have these discussions. When you talk about one team versus another, when you talk about Super Bowl hopes, you talk about the team with the best quarterback in the draft. I mean, best quarterback in the conversation, right? That's why Mahomes just keeps on ringing off Super Bowls, right? That's what it is. He's the constant. Without Mahomes, we're not having a conversation. If Kirk Cousins is in his place, that offense is not hum. I'll tell you that right now. And so I just feel like, with Josh Allen still being there, his Super Bowl window is going to be as long as he's in the NFL. The same thing Joe Burrow said. That's really the reality. You have a luxury at your fingertips when you have a quarterback that good and that young and a controllable asset for the future. So no, I think that hopefully he continues to get better and doesn't play dummy ball as much, and can clean things up. I know that's been missing since Dayball's left, but if they can do that and he can continue to clean up, be more efficient as a quarterback, the sky's the limit. So no, I think they have an opportunity to still win Super Bowls down the line.
In the 5th round, 150th overall pick, Spencer Rattler went to the New Orleans Saints. Capper facts: can Spencer Rattler be a franchise quarterback in the NFL?
I say Capper facts: can Spencer Rattler be a franchise quarterback in the NFL. I don't think he can. I don't think he can.
Who's his coach there? Who's the offensive staff around you? Who's developing you there? This is the same thing with Drake May. And this is why I said Drake May had to go to like a few different places. There were 2 places I was sure Drake May would become a franchise quarterback, like sure, 100% sure. I thought with the Giants with Dayball, because I thought that he's developed that same quarterback in that same mold, and the Vikings, slam dunk. I thought that'd have been a slam dunk situation. 2 places where the offensive coordinator, the offensive minds in place there would have had a system in place for him to thrive. Going to the Patriots, I'm not so sure about that. Defensive head coach, I'm not even sure who the offensive coordinator is there. I have to refresh my memory on that. And so,
just to give you that answer real quick before you continue, you know, the head coach right there is Dennis Allen, which was a part of the Sean Payton Super Bowl championship year right there. So he comes from that tree. Offensive coordinator is Clint Kubiak. That's the
over in New Orleans.
Yes.
Right? So
and the quarterback coach is Andrew Janako.
Okay, well, we don't care about that, even though he plays a vital role. If the offensive coordinator is Kubiak's like to run the ball. His dad ran the ball a ton with the Texans back in the day. That's what they do. They run heavy. And so I don't know about the development of a quarterback in that situation. He'd be better off with a Sean Payton, better off with a great offensive mind around him, right? Even a Jim Harbaugh, who's had a track record of having success with quarterbacks, or, you know, Brian Daboll, or, you know, there's just guys, Kellen Moore, there's just other guys who are just known for being offensive gurus. Coaching matters more in football than any other sport. So if he's there with the guy who likes to run the ball first, his defensive head coach still being in there in place, and Dennis Allen, it's the same thing as Drake May over in New England. Like, it's not a slam dunk that you're going to have success. You have all the talent in the world, and Spencer Rattler has all the talent in the world. He has, when you talk about pure arm talent, he's probably the 2nd most talented quarterback in the draft outside of Caleb Williams. He's that good with his arm. He can make every throw. So if he had a coach that he could rely on, I mean, if he had a coach that really was going to set him up for success, I'd feel differently. But I'm going to say no. The chances are no, because of where he's started his career. You know, and there's a lot of guys in the NFL who've had this story with all the arm talent in the world. They go to the wrong place that does not like feature their skills and feature the plays they like to run and really play to their strengths and build a foundation for them with their skill set. And when you go to that place you start, it's very hard to unlearn bad habits where you learned it early on in your career. So I'm gonna say no about that. That's the reason why.
I think a lot of it too is like, how do you take your role in terms of not being a starter this year, right? How do you adjust to that? How serious are you taking kind of because this is going to be a new transition for him, right? Where he's still going to have to kind of adapt to being in a position where he's not the starter, but still has to put in the same amount of work as he would if he was a starter, to be prepared when he does get his opportunity, right? You know, it could be a Jordan Love situation. He could be, you know, riding the pine for the next 3 years. Is he going to be prepared to step into that role and become a franchise quarterback? This window that he has from now until whenever he does get an opportunity, he's going to need to be ready to step into that role as a franchise quarterback and show that he still has all the talent that we thought, we've witnessed he had. You know, I know in times at college, he did have a turnover issue, and I think that might be his Achilles heel going into the league, is making sure that he is studying up, you know, adjusting the defenses, understanding that he doesn't need to force, you know, the ball. It's okay to throw it away. Because again, he's a talented player, but just watching him play at times, he looked very erratic when he was trying to make too many things happen at once. And sometimes you just need to throw the ball away. And I think playing with a veteran guy like Derek Carr, who has had success in this league, can only help him. But again, it's about his attitude. It's about his maturity, him stepping into this role as a backup quarterback, knowing that he's going to be a backup. How does he still prepare like a starter for when an opportunity does come for him to play?
Hey, staying in the quarterback conversation right there. And again, we appreciate Miles being on, man. Knicks are on this halftime right now. So when you watch this, Miles is still on and he's still locked in. Y'all know what the score is at halftime when you see this. This episode is coming out tomorrow. So you'll see Miles is committed. But staying in that conversation, a quarterback conversation, going to play a little game called Odd Man Out. Which of these quarterbacks hasn't passed for 500 yards in a game? First set, Dak Prescott, Derek Carr, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers.
Derek Carr. Hasn't, right? Derek Carr was the one who didn't
who
do it.
hasn't
I'm
passed
gonna say
500 yards?
I'm gonna say it's Derek Carr. I'm probably wrong. Probably Aaron Rodgers. It's Derek Carr. I'm picking. That's my guess.
You got Derek.
I'm gonna go Aaron.
Who you go for, Miles?
Tom Brady.
All right, so Derek Carr, October 30th, 2016, against the Bucks, 513 yards.
God.
So Derek Carr wasn't the answer. Dak Prescott, we know he's thrown for 500 yards.
Yeah.
502 against the Cleveland Browns, 2020. Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, the last two selections. Tom Brady, 517 yards in 2011. A-Rod, his career high is 480 yards in 2013.
Hey, A-Ron, man.
Second set, Warren Moon, Eli Manning, Joe Burrow, Peyton Manning. Which of these quarterbacks hasn't thrown for 500 yards?
Say it again. Warren Moon, Peyton Manning,
Eli. And
Warren
Joe
Moon,
Burrow.
Peyton Manning, Eli, and Joe Burrow.
I'm gonna say Joe Burrow didn't throw 500 yet. I don't think he did.
I'm pretty sure he did, which is why I'm gonna say
Eli. I think it's Eli.
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
I think Eli's thrown 500. He was slinging that thing around. I don't know though. Maybe I'm wrong. I think Eli did throw 500 though. He had a game in New Orleans where I think he might have thrown for 500 yards. I remember it vividly. Odell was still on the team, but I may be wrong. My guess is Joe Burrow.
I think Joe Burrow threw for 500 in New Orleans against New Orleans when Jamar Chase had 266 receiving yards.
You're right.
I think that's the game where he threw for 500. I could be wrong, but I know they went crazy that game being back in New Orleans.
I think you're right, bro.
It's one of the Manning brothers.
Let's say Eli didn't throw 500. All right, Eli, that's my guess. That's it. I'm not changing anymore. Eli.
All right. So Warren Moon, we could check him off. 527 yards, 1990. We weren't born yet, but that's the second most, tied for the second most passing yards ever in a game. Now, we mentioned Eli Manning, Joe Burrow, Peyton Manning. Joe Burrow, he has completed that 525 yards, 2021 against the Baltimore Ravens the day after Christmas. Big game.
Oh, yeah. Jamar Chase tweaked that game, too.
Eli Manning, 2012, 510 yards
against who?
Against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Same
division. You was in the right division.
I told you though. Damn it.
Peyton Manning.
You miss him? You miss him, Greg?
What kind of question is that, man?
Because y'all treated him very poorly in his last year.
Who's y'all? Nigga, I don't work for them.
No. I remember too. You was on that Daniel. Man, what? You was sipping that Daniel.
When it was time to move on, it was time to move on, but it didn't mean that he wasn't great. Well, he was great here. And obviously he's well respected in New York. He's treated like a damn king. So ain't no question about how much people miss him here. Please.
So funny enough, Peyton Manning, his career high is only 479 yards, and he did that with the Denver Broncos on the back end. So he didn't even have that many yards with the Colts, which those were some of his best years.
Right.
NBA playoffs is in full effect. We're going to look at some of the series that's still going on. As we have mentioned, the Knicks are playing right now. We're going to look at some of the series that are up and coming and some of the series that are left. First one we're going to touch on, Timberwolves versus the Nuggets. The regular season, Denver won the series 4-1. Joker averaged 33 and 12, specifically with Gobert and the Timberwolves that top tier defense. Can the Timberwolves actually beat the Nuggets, who just came off of a gentleman's sweep of the Los Angeles Lakers?
Yes. Yeah, they can. The Timberwolves can beat them in a 7-game series. I think they've got a good chance to do so. We look at the teams make up. Damn, we live. The teams make up. And you look at them from top to bottom. Mike Conley Jr., Cat. I think the key, the X factor to this series is Cat. I don't think it's Anthony Edwards. I think Anthony Edwards is going to do what he does. I think it's Cat. Because you got to look at Cat's he has all talent in the world, and when you think about him, you think about a guy who likes to take a lot of threes. If he can make some threes early and often in the series and get Jokic to come out and guard him on the perimeter, Cat is skilled enough with the basketball to be able to drive right by Jokic and really give him a hard time guarding him in space. You got to make Jokic guard in space. You got to make Jokic play defense. It's the only way you're going to win this series. I'm sorry. And I think that Cat, for as good as Anthony Davis and for as well as he played and as good as he is, right, he doesn't offer the same mobility on the perimeter that Cat does. Cat plays like a big guard, right? And so Cat's got to be willing to exploit mismatches when they get switches and they got guards on them, be able to have your back to the basket, float over the right shoulder, left shoulder, be able to score, turn around fades, right, bumps, get down there and really be aggressive, play off 2 feet in the paint, but then really get downhill and make guys work hard and make Jokic work hard in particular. We really got to put pressure on him, make him come out to contest those 3-point attempts, right, make enough of them to where he has to respect it, and then you're driving by him and you're really putting him on your back shoulder and making him have to foul you, because he will foul you, right? He will. And if he doesn't, you're gonna get right to
the if they have Jokic guarding Gobert though.
Gobert, yeah, I mean that's certainly, yeah, I think that's and they're smart and Malone's smart. They'll probably do that. But you can do 4 or 5 pick and rolls. You can literally have like a high-low pick and roll and have the switch, right? And you can have a catch the ball, free throw line extended, pick and roll. We're getting the switch with Jokic, and Jokic, you don't switch or you guys go under, I'm shooting your faces off, right? So just put them in conflict with those 2 guys all series and have Gobert there to clean up the mess, right? Play. Oh
my goodness, look at that basketball knowledge. I guess you don't have to go to LeBron's podcast to get that.
It's simple stuff, man. But if you listen to people online, they think I'm an idiot. Yeah, I just think that's the way you want to exploit this matchup. It has to be through him. Anthony Edwards is going to do what Anthony Edwards does. There's no answer for him. But you need Cat to join the party and to be a prominent figure in the series if you're going to beat Denver. But they can be beat, and they're not healthy, right? They're nicked up, and Murray's had the calf injury, and KCP was on one leg. He had a blown tire with the ankle injury. They have an opportunity here to take advantage of this and really take it right to Denver early and often in this series. But it's just going to be about whether or not Cat is going to be assertive. I think that is the key to the series. I really do believe that. And if Cat's not, they're going to lose. That's just. I think it is that simple, truly.
Hey, and I think too, the other thing too that's great with this Timberwolves team, again, different from the Lakers, they got options on defense regarding the perimeter.
Yeah,
Jamal Murray is not going to be sweet this series. You're not going to be 9 for 28 and then hit a game winner. They're going to make sure that's still clamped up with Jaden McDaniels, and Anthony Edwards actually plays defense.
right.
And he loves and relishes those matchups. You saw what he did against Bill. You saw what he did against KD. He relishes those matchups. So that defense, I think, is going to be different for Denver in that regard. And they was the only team in the West to beat them last year, and I don't think that's by any accident, especially a more mature team now. But Miles, what's your predictions on this series?
I kind of like Minnesota more than Denver right now. I just think that they have so many different angles on defense they can go defending the Nuggets. I think they could put Edwards on Murray. They could even put, I guess, McDaniels on Joker and then just help off of that. So you free up a little more space for that. I don't know. With this 2 big lineup, it's going to be interesting just because I'm just like, I know that people were not feeling it at first when they traded for Gobert, but he does add that piece to the offense or the defense, I mean. And it allows Cat to kind of roam a little bit. He can be on the perimeter, but I'd like to see him, be a little more engaged down low, because I think realistically they're probably going to put Aaron Gordon on him, and he's going to have the size advantage over Aaron Gordon. So he's got to kind of like attack that matchup. Like Chuck even said that he'd like for him to shoot less threes and try to use that big body of his down low. Like, he's talented enough that he can do both. Like, I don't
Thirsty.
So I don't understand, like, the hesitation. Maybe it's like you're trying to space the floor with Anthony Edwards out there. But it's going to be a fun series to watch. I think it's going to be one of those series that can go 7. It's going to be interesting.
And I think
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think you really got to be able to guard Michael Porter Jr. and put a lid on that, man. I mean, he's their X factor in the way that Cat's the X factor for the Timberwolves. The X factor for the Nuggets is Michael Porter Jr. You have to be able to stop him from killing you off of these like second and third hockey assist passes where the ball swings around, swing, or it's a rebound and they kick it out to him. You've got to be able to get a lid on that. And so if Jaden McDaniels starts there, I'd understand that. I really would. I think Anthony Edwards is more than capable of guarding Jamal Murray and being effective offensively. He's not even in his prime yet. He's a young kid getting up and down the floor. He'll be good. Really putting that defensive output out there. And you could also just leave Mike Conley on Jamal Murray as well and take your chances there and be able to survive. So I really like the way they match up with them because they have answers for everything they throw at them. They do. The only thing Denver has over Minnesota is experience. Right. And Cat has to grow up. It's time for Cat to grow up. This is the series where we need Cat to be the guy that he was drafted to be. It's now or never, like for real. Like I think if he doesn't show up in this series, you're going to have some tough conversations in Minnesota eventually about him. And we've been there with him. But I think this is the best opportunity they've ever had to really make a real run at a championship here. It's wide open. And so you've got to be able to grow up here. You've got to be able to exploit the matchup of Jokic and make him slide his feet and play defensively and make him work. Because AD did that. He did. I don't have knocks on what AD did in that series, but he can't attack you the way that Cat can because AD can't shoot the way Cat can. So he spaces the floor much differently, makes him to come out to play. And you can get switches. It's the NBA. Dribble handoffs. You can do a lot of different things. Dribble handoffs. You can do high screening rolls. You can do side screening rolls. Things to put them in conflict and make them have to make a decision. Right. And they're shooting all over the floor for the Timberwolves. So, and obviously Jaden McDaniels has to play well too, but I really think it's about Cat. I think this is the series about Cat, and you got to watch him play. You got to zero in on him, and that'll decide the series ultimately, in my opinion.
We shall see. That series starts on Saturday. Looking at it, next series is still going on, so we'll touch on that last, being that we might be able to get some type of idea who wins this game, but it's pretty close right now. So I don't know. We might have to talk about this on the next episode, honestly, how that works out. Cavs or Magic. Cavs are up 3-2 right now. Who actually ends up winning that series? And I know this might be one that we could go through pretty fairly quickly because it's Cavs Magic. And most of their games has been on Nick at Night. So how do you see this series panning out?
I mean, Cleveland, I think Cleveland is the better team. They've got a little more experience. They've got Jared Allen, who's a dog down low. Donovan Mitchell's played pretty well. But the biggest game right now is Game 6 to see if Orlando can steal one over here, because I honestly thought that they, coming off the Orlando in Game 4, I thought, all right, Game 5, they're ready. Like, they kind of figured it out. Franz is, he's their most important player. So if he's balling, that team is off and running. Like, I need Paolo to do a little more than he's been doing. I think this one goes 7. I'm thinking that they're going to win tomorrow night, Orlando, that is, and then they'll be back in Cleveland. But I think regardless, these teams aren't going to beat Boston. Even with the Porzingis injury and all that stuff, I don't think Cleveland stands a chance against them. And, Orlando's they're so young. Like, they made it off the strength of they're just like a young bunch that, they hoop. Like Jalen Suggs, Paolo, Franz, even Isaac coming back from the injuries. But I just don't think they're ready yet. But I think Cleveland, they're going to end up taking this series.
If they do lose, I know a lot of those Orlando Magic players, they need to hit up Greg. They need to hit up Phil Handy. They need to hit up somebody. Because outside of Paolo and Franz, that offense is really, really bad.
Yeah.
And simple. No, lethal shooter, hit him up. He fixed KCP jump shot. A lot of them. It's too many games where we're talking about 1 for 7 from 3, 0 for 4 from 3. You're getting 0 points from this guard, 0 points from that guard.
Yeah.
They need to. They've been playing great D. I love it. Suggs, Cole Anthony, good D, yes. But can we get some type of offense out of them? It can't just be Paolo and Franz, man. That's not going to work down the line for them, which is why I think they call Klay Thompson, possibly a Kevin Durant, something like that. We'll see, but that's later in the show. We'll talk about.
Yeah, I think that we'll talk about it later then. But the lack of shooting makes it tough to win the series, and it's not Paolo's fault or Franz's fault. They just need more talent around those guys. Jalen Suggs is not a good enough shooter around them, and it's been a disappointment how his career started. To be quite honest with you, thought we'd get a little bit better from him being a lottery pick and what he showed at Gonzaga. I mean, he never was really a great shooter as well. So when you talk about team construction, you can say that's an issue, because I don't know how you will get if your outlook for the future, if you're Orlando, is to go get free agents. You've never been a free agent destination. Guys go to Miami, not Orlando. So I don't know why, by the way. I think Orlando would be pretty nice, but that's a whole different discussion. So I think with this series, you look at Cleveland, they're battle tested. They've at least been this before. The Magic weren't supposed to win the series, even though we all picked them. We thought there were chinks in the armor. Damn it with that damn saying. We thought there were issues. We thought there were a dent in the armor for the Cavs. With the Donovan Mitchell situation and all that stuff. So, I think. When you look at that series, it's pretty cut and dry. I think you got to close them out here in Game 6. If you let it go to Game 7, you flip a coin. Who's going to play better in that game, Paolo or Mitchell? Who does, right? Because that's what it comes down to. If you're the Magic, you're just praying for a game. Obviously, you're praying for a Game 7 situation, because you're going to push all your chips in on Paolo Banchero and try to, get that guy to take you to the finish line, take you to the promised land, and let's see if he can do it. In his second year in the league, but the future is very bright for them. I mean, with the way he's played and the way he played last game, Paolo down the stretch, the post-up moves, he reminded me a little bit of Carmelo with how strong he is. I see a lot of Carmelo in his game. I really, really do. Then he's got like just a different type of court sense about him, where he's able to make the pass, and he's just a little more mature than even Melo was that age, but Melo's a better scorer. So don't get carried away. So all the people won't go come crazy. But I love Paolo's game, and I love what their future is. But I think the Cavs will finish it out. We have to change our opinion now that we've got new facts in front of us, and I think the Cavs are the team that we have to, side with here. By the way, this Knicks game is crazy. I'm the way it flipped on its head after they went up by 20. My God, they were 68-61, and the Knicks were just kind of like getting a little stuck in the mud here offensively. But what a series! This is the best series of the first round by a mile. It's a great game.
By a mile, man. And we called it way, way before anybody else did. But Tyrese Maxey, I mean, putting this out there, nobody would have expected this. If you said at the beginning of the year, if you talked about the playoffs this year, the leading scorers in the playoffs would be Jalen Brunson at 34.4 and Tyrese Maxey at 32.4 points per game. Top 2 scorers in the playoffs right now. Undersized guards, not the biggest, just getting buckets out here, having conversations whether Tyrese is the face of the franchise or not, which is a whole nother thing. Clippers, Mavericks. Now the Thunder, they already swept. They waiting, they chilling, relaxing, stretching out, icing, running plays, doing little pickup games. They waiting on whoever's going to win. The Clippers and Maverick series. Who gives the best chance to actually beat the Oklahoma City Thunder?
The Mavericks.
By the way, I think the Mavs
win.
I picked them. I think the Mavs win. I love what I see from.
Did I not pick them as well? I think I did.
Yeah, you did. You did.
Yeah, I don't believe in the Clippers. Yeah.
I love what I've seen from Kyrie. Kyrie specifically. I love what I have seen from Kyrie Irving.
Yes.
And even Luka. This tells me that they actually have something true there. You look at the box score, you would think Luka's been having a great series. You would think Luka is playing well. It hasn't been efficient, but he's still getting his numbers. Luka came out and was like, yo, I got to be better for Kyrie. I got to help him out. That shows me right there how much of a chemistry they have right there that Luka came out and said, I want to do better. So I got the Mavs going to the next round, and I see them beating OKC, but y'all had the floor.
Yeah, man. I mean, Miles, go. Miles better than me. Go ahead. Do you want to go? Go ahead. You're better than me.
So I think Clippers are done for. They kind of showed their cards in the last game. You know, Paul George and them, they had a great game 4, where they, blew a 31-point lead and almost lost that game. Sure, they had their points. They played great, but you got to carry it on to the next game. Like, I'm looking at this, and they played awful. Like, James Harden, that was the one we were talking about before the series started. That Harden, playoff Harden. I thought he was playing a pretty good series up until that point, and then in the biggest moment at home too, you put up a dud like that. And for them to lose by like 20 with like Kyrie only putting up like 14, I'm like, damn, you guys have no pride. So going back to Dallas, I don't know. I just don't think this is going to be a close one, in my opinion. Like this, I'm so disappointed in the Clippers. Like, I honestly thought that this team would be better, but then again, rinse and repeat. They always each year say, just imagine if we had Kawhi, this series would be different. Like, damn, how many times you gonna say it before it's like, this is what's gonna happen every year? Like, I don't expect him to be ready for the playoffs. Just like Zion, I don't expect him to, get over that injury hump that he's been on for a little bit. So they blow this up. Mavs will move on, and I think Kyrie's battle tested. Luka, sort of the same thing. So I think they could beat OKC, honestly, in that next round. And I know a lot of us said this team can make a finals run. I mean, let's watch out. If they beat OKC, whoever comes out of that next game, that next series, that's going to be a battle. And those guys might come out a little banged up. So whoever comes out of that OKC Dallas, they could, honestly be a little more fresh, depending on how the series goes. And watch out. I mean, playoffs are fun. Like, this is fun. Like, I'm on edge right now because the Knicks are, I don't want to say shit in the bed, but they are. They were up by 22.
And I got a hot take for your Knicks, for your Knicks fans, man. I got
before you go with the remember that hot take. Remember that. Real quick though, did the Clippers give the extension to the wrong guy? They extended Kawhi Leonard. Did they give the extension to the wrong guy?
They shouldn't. Kawhi's a better player though, but it's just he's injury prone. PG's kind of been the same way. I mean, he's stayed healthy, relatively speaking, this year. And in the playoffs, I'd rather Kawhi, if he's healthy, than PG. I'm sorry. I just don't like – he has too many moments where he doesn't show up for me.
If you're the Clippers, you shouldn't have extended either one. If you extend them, you extend them to trade them. You trade them and get assets in return, because you can't win a championship with one guy being injured. Kawhi would be the perfect guy to be the person who gets you over the hump and gets to a championship, because he's that good when he's right. And his game is complete, but he's never healthy, so it's a moot point. And with Paul George takes far too many jump shots to be considered a guy you can go to down the stretch, who can be the person who takes you there, right? He can't be the bus driver. He's not a bus driver. He's a passenger. Maybe he's in the first, so the passenger seat next to you, but he's a passenger nonetheless. And so I look at that situation with the Clippers, and that's why they're losing the series. I mean, James Harden, we obviously know, and he's been consistent, been played much better than I would have thought he played. So I got to give him credit, but at the same time, he's still not the same player he once was. He's not Houston James Harden. That guy's not coming back. That guy's still in Turkey Hut down in Houston. It's gone. So you're not getting that guy coming back. It's over, and that pipe dream's dead. Just be glad you got three really good games from him in this series. But with Paul George, the way I kind of see it again, you know, he needs to be somewhere where he can be with another dynamic offensive player who's reliable and be in a perfect kind of like Robin role. And I know that was the idea with Kawhi. I get it, but I'd rather have him with a point guard who can also set him up, get him on some cuts to the rim, you know, set him up on some easy plays, right? Guy who's a facilitator as well as a scorer. You want him with a point guard who can facilitate and shoot it. That's the ideal situation for a guy like Paul George. And that's why it's not, even though you would think with James Harden to be a good marriage because he facilitates, it's not. It's not, because they're still allowing him too much down the stretch of games to create for himself and really dig them out of holes. And that's not what you want him doing, really, because again, though he takes some tough shots, he takes and makes tough shots, and that's a hard way to live in big moments. So yeah, credit to Dallas. Dallas is going to win the series. We picked them from the beginning, and they have a chance to win the championship as long as Luka can keep it together and not fall apart. And Kyrie's growth is worth shouting out. It's worth shouting out. It really is. The leadership, you know, he's there all about basketball. And when he's all about basketball, he's one of the greatest players to ever watch play this game. And, you know, I've been critical of him on the podcast before, obviously, but that was for things that off the court. It was the fact that he wasn't playing. That was always the problem, because I knew that this is what he was capable of. And of course, Dallas gets to reap the benefit, and I don't. That's just the way my life seems to work, but it's all right. He deserves a lot of credit for his play in the series. Even the 14-point game, I thought it was methodical. You know, you're letting your role players get off. You know, you're trying to, you know, allow the guys to keep going. Jaden Hardy comes in, has some big buckets for you, and other guys play well. So that's smart. It's Jason Kidd as well. Jason Kidd has a lot of credit. He's a smarter coach right now. He's out coaching Ty Lue. I think Ty Lue's a great coach. I don't knock him down a peg because of the series. It's tough when your guys who you're going to aren't. They're not built for the moment. They're not built for it. And it's, you know, and it's not that it's too big for them necessarily. I would argue that for Paul George, it might be because he has a history, but in James Harden as well. Okay, you know what? I changed my opinion. It is because it's too big for them. The moment's too big for them. It is. And so that's the concern you have with that team. But I think that Dallas has a chance to make a championship run. They're that good this year. They need a little more shooting. Josh Green's got the kid Green's got to make a couple more shots. He struggles from out there, but I think they're an interesting group for sure. And I think that the series, if it ain't over in 6 Dallas's way, which I think it is, it's going to be over in 7. Dallas's defensive intensity tends to fluctuate from game to game, and that's where you see the Clippers kicking their teeth in. You've got to play great defense every night. You got to bring it every night. So hopefully they can do that in the next series.
That's the thing too. If it goes to game 7,
it's
trusting, as we just mentioned, trusting Paul George, James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Kawhi to show up in a big moment in LA at home. They better off having it been game 7 in Dallas. I wouldn't trust it. I wouldn't put no money on them. Speaking of some of the teams that lost that have been exited from the playoffs, end off the show this part, and you know, we give y'all the Kappa facts and all that good stuff afterward. You know, we're gonna talk about Euphoria. Y'all know we're gonna talk about Euphorias. We say the best for last. We know that's what y'all want. So if you watching this and you see this later, you can skip ahead to the next part. It'll be in the captions on YouTube to let you know where exactly the timestamp is at. The Suns, they lost. We know that. The Lakers, they lost. Suns got swept. Lakers got gentleman sweep. What do these teams, like which team between the Lakers and Suns is in the best position to actually get better?
The Lakers. I mean,
yeah,
they have the room to make moves. Like, they're not handicapped by large contracts. Sure, they got to re-up Bron on a new deal. They gave AD a new deal. But, like, D'Angelo is going to decline his option. He's gone. You could, honestly, if you see a star big enough, you can move Reeves. You can move some of those smaller contracts that you did sign in the offseason and bring in a third star to pair with AD and Bron. Like, Phoenix, they made their move. Like, they can't make any more moves unless they're trading KD, which, I mean, they're not. I honestly don't think they're going to trade Booker. I don't think he wants to leave. And I mean, from what he said, or from what was said that he wants to play with one team his whole career, fine. But I just don't see KD being okay with how things went down. Like he came to this team thinking he could win a championship to be a first round exit and not, they might have competed a little bit, but it wasn't like a close series. Like if you look on it, like sure, there might have been some games that were close, but they got waxed. Like Anthony Edwards, 22 years old, talking trash to your first ballot Hall of Famer, dominating the series, not even close who the best player in the series was. Yeah, like Phoenix, they've got Bradley Beal on the hook for over $150 million over the next 2 years. Terrible contract. One of probably the worst contract in basketball right now, just because we know his cards. He's not a playoff level basketball player. Like, he's not a winning player. He was doing all that in Washington on a bad team. And when he was winning, it was John Wall who was facilitating everything. And he's not a point guard. So I don't see how this team can make any moves. Unless, you bring in Campaign to run point because you are capped at money. Like, they don't have any moves to make. They even gave Grayson Allen, they even doubled down. Even if they had no more money. And they were like, you know what? We can't lose Grayson Allen. Here's 4 years, 70 mil. What the hell? Who taught this guy business? Like, he's a billionaire, but like he knows nothing about running a team.
No.
Like, you look at that contract, and then you look at Dante DiVincenzo. That shit looks crazy.
It does.
Sorry, I'm like cursing.
No, it does.
But like, that looks crazy. 4 years, 70 mil to Grayson Allen.
Yeah.
To be what is he going to start? You're going to start all four of those guys? I mean, I don't even know the direction of this team. Like Ishiba or Ishiba or Shiba Inu, I don't know his name, but like, you don't know what he's doing over there. Like, he is clueless. And then in that post-season presser, for him almost like putting he's like, who wouldn't want to play with these guys? Who wouldn't want to? We can win with these three guys. All right.
Hey,
if you're playing,
he said this specifically because I've read this and you got the floor. He said 26 out of 29 teams would want our roster, our draft picks, our exact situation. They would trade to have our whole team. That's exactly what he said, which I think he's drunk.
Oh my God. If we're playing the big three, like if Ice Cube was like, all right, come on over, guys. You got your top three. You can make some noise. Like, sure, that would work. But in the league present day, like they changed the whole way of life in the NBA, basically. Like, you're basically capped at 2 stars. And that 2-star limit, that barely gives you enough flexibility to build a roster out. So for them to go and, trade Bridges, even trading Bridges was stupid. Like, that contract was so clean in this age. He was a great player. They felt like they had to make a move. I don't know. Sometimes, these basketball, I don't want to call him a basketball guy. These like businessmen come into the league. I don't even want to compare the guy from the Nets to him because he's not even. He makes this guy look like.
Which guy from the Nets?
Chicago. Who's the guy in the Last Dance doc that everybody talked trash about? They make him look like that. Like, I'm done. I'm done ranting. Like, I'm just like the Suns. They're just.
To Miles's point, to blame Ishbia for the Suns' downfall is fair because they didn't want James Jones, who's done a phenomenal job since being there, and shouldn't be blamed for any of this, and was the reason why they had that great team that went to the finals with Bridges and Johnson and the Ayton and all them dudes, and CP3, right? Book. He didn't want to include Bridges in that trade for what's it called, for Kevin Durant. In fact, Sean Marks knew that Ishbia was desperate. So Sean Marks kept pushing him on things like, hey, we're not going to trade him to you unless you You give us this, you give us that, you give us Bridges, give us Johnson, give us all your unprotected first round picks for the next 4 years. And James Jones said no. And then HBO would come in and veto him, like, no, we're doing it. We're getting Kevin Durant no matter what. Let's do it. And that's exactly what happened. Like, you could read it any way you want.
Yep, he vetoed it.
He vetoed it. So, HBO is literally running this thing into the ground. And so when he says, you've got a clean situation. Look, the Grayson Allen contract was frustrating and mind-boggling because if you think about it, they don't have a point guard. If you had that money to spend and you had it in reserve, and that was the last money you had, you go get a point guard this summer. You run it back with that big three with a serviceable point guard, and you see if you can get this thing back on track and give yourself a chance. Instead of spending money on a point guard, you've now hamstring yourself completely and given Grayson Allen a contract that you probably can't trade. You're just not gonna be able to trade it. You can't. And it is not because he's not good. It's because you can get that production for less money. Like DiVincenzo's just as good of a player, honestly, and getting less, significantly less, if I'm not mistaken. So, you can't make sense of the things the Suns have done. The Lakers have a chance to move forward here and get better. Obviously, it starts with the coach. And I think you can make a case both coaches weren't great, but I think less so for Frank Vogel, more so for Darvin Ham. You get better by letting Darvin Ham go, and you get a new guy in the building and bring some new energy and bring someone into that LeBron and AD and these other players. When your role players don't respect your coach is a real problem. So bring somebody that these role players can respect and know that can lead them in tight moments as well. I heard JJ Redick's name out there. I don't think that's a good idea. Do not do that. Please, Lakers, don't do it. He's new. That's a terrible idea. I think he could be a good coach one day, but you gotta let him grow somewhere and let him earn his stripes. He can't just walk in and coach in the Lakers in this situation. I love the Ty Lue situation. I love the Ty Lue potential hire. If you can get Ty Lue, if Ty Lue gets sick of Kawhi's nonsense and sick of his excused absences, then we can go ahead and get Ty Lue in the building with the Lakers, and that'd be a phenomenal situation. And then I feel comfortable, even more comfortable with you getting a guy like Trae Young. I do. I think that he'll maximize what their offensive ceiling is, and he'll be able to successfully hide Trae Young and push Trae Young and get the best out of him. I do believe that. That's the guy who will do it. Because if you can challenge LeBron James in the locker room, you can challenge Trae Young without a problem. So I do like that guy to come in and be the Lakers' next coach. But yeah, I think the Lakers have a much cleaner path. They have all their draft picks back when the draft comes around. And so I love where they can go, and I think they have a chance to be good. And, LeBron not signed that dotted line until they make something happen. Something got to shake. So we're going to see what they do. But LeBron ain't going nowhere either. He's going to be a Laker. So let's just see what the Lakers do. But they have flexibility. And that if you go the 3 superstar route, you definitely hurt your flexibility. But at least do it in a way that's sustainable. Trae Young, AD, crazy pick and roll with LeBron. That's a sustainable basketball solution. Brad Beal, who is on the wrong side of whatever his age is, that he might be in his 30s now. When you have a bad back, it doesn't get much better, just the way it works. You're always going to have a back situation. Brad Beal, Devin Booker, and KD. And KD, you guys know how I feel about KD. We're not talking about him yet. Yeah, I don't want to have that conversation. That's fine. That's fine. But he's a walking turnover. He wakes up and he's apple turnover. Wakes up and has apple turnover. He turns everything over. Turnover. That's all he does is turn it over when defenses get a little tight on him. And so I have my issues with him, but more so Brad Beal. So you don't have a point guard there. You don't want to set the table. And you have a D Book who's a killer trying to set the table, playing out of position. So, hey, man, we'll see. But I think the Lakers clearly have a better situation. And HBO's drunk.
Hey, next year, KD will be in what jersey?
Probably a Sun. Does he want out? Like, I know he didn't like the offense. He's complaining and doing the typical Kevin Durant thing. You know what? Let me stop being stupid. It's Kevin Durant. He might be somewhere else next year. Okay? Like, he wakes up and changes his mind. And so we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But I think KD could be somewhere else next year if I had to bet. I mean, you're going to trade him to the Eastern Conference. Not keep him West Conference. Let's say he'd be in Miami. I don't know what Miami gives you back. If Tyler Hero's not moving the needle and neither is Terry Rozier, maybe a combination of them both with picks. Maybe that moves the needle for you. as well. But I think Miami's ready to been primed to make a move for a while, and that could be their chance to make one right there. So Miami makes a little bit of sense.
I mean, that's a good spot. Maybe a couple years ago. I don't know how good of a spot it is now, just because, you know, I think their window is closing. It might have shut. I mean, unless you're replacing Jimmy with KD, I don't know. I don't see it really fitting with those three guys. I think it's an embarrassment of riches if you do that. I think, sure, maybe a Bam KD could work out, and then, you know, add pieces here and there. Like Miami, they figure it out. They bring in undrafted guys and turn them into like 12-year vets. Like it's crazy what they do with players. But like, I don't know. I don't see KD as like fitting the mold of what Miami is about. I mean, you brought up an interesting point with the Orlando Magic. That's a good. I mean, depends on what you have to give up for them.
Orlando's going to throw a lot of money at one of these guys. Whether it's Klay Thompson, Paul George, I think those are two of the most realistic targets for them. So I'm really interested to see where they go with their future and how they use their assets, and really it's just the money and who they can lure to come over there. But if I were, you know, in the Paul George sweepstakes is going to be very interesting this summer, and if I were a team that would be interested in them, it would be the Knicks. I would be if I couldn't get a superstar that I said, hey, I'm requesting a trade. You could stay patient and ride it out with Randall if you want. But if you want a better chance in the playoffs next year and want to make a real run at this thing, and I think they could this year, but I don't. We'll see how this turns out with them in Philly. You could go get Paul George, replace him for Anunoby, and I think you're gonna have a nice 1-2 punch there with Jalen Brunson. Like the money you're gonna give Anunoby, the money he's about to ask you for. If you're gonna ask me for that money, you got to be more than just a lockdown defender, a 3D guy, and you got to be a great 3-point shooter, which I wouldn't classify him as. You got to be a guy who get your own every now and then. I know Paul George can do that, and so I like the punch he'd give you in those situations as opposed to Anunoby, where in a game like this one right now, right, that we're watching, you need another guy who can score and help. It alleviates so much pressure off of Jalen Brunson, and I know that's the idea of getting another superstar in the building. And I think someone will request a trade there, so you can stay patient. But I do like Paul George as a fit for that team. You get him on like a 3-year deal, you know, nothing too crazy. It'd be interesting. So that's my thoughts there on that. The Paul George sweepstakes, but we'll see.
Star bench cut. Now, the person that you cut, that means you will never be able to listen to their music ever again. Star bench cut. Tory Lanez, Chris Brown, Blast.
This nigga ain't right, man.
Yeah, you say Blast.
You cutting Blast? You cutting him?
I'm cutting Blast. Tory is one of
Tory's got a good catalog.
Guys in the game. Chris Brown speaks for itself. Blast is cool, but if I didn't hear another song by Blast, I don't know. I wouldn't be upset. I mean, in this hypothetical scenario, that is.
I'll probably cut Blast too, bro. I don't even like doing this, man. I would probably start. Who do I listen? I mean, Tory's catalog is great, and the last album's great.
Honestly, might start Tory.
I think I start Tory. bro. I think I start Tory and bench Chris Brown, even though Chris Brown's catalog is crazy. It's just hidden because he dropped 80 songs at a time. It's hard. But so it's a lot. It's all respect. But Tory, Chris, and then I'd cut Blast, I guess. But let Blast drop another album that's fire, like the first one, and I'm back in. So yeah, I'd go Tory, Chris Brown, and then Blast. But damn it, that's annoying. That's annoying. I didn't like that one, man.
Come on, coach. You should know this. You got to cut players you don't want to sometimes.
I'm used to that.
Would you rather, and then we're going to talk about Euphoria, and y'all tell me y'all thoughts on Euphoria, with the issue of Kawhi Leonard being in and out of the playoffs this first round, Joel Embiid, he's literally playing on one leg. Would you rather, for a injury replacement, Kyrie Irving or Jalen Brunson?
Kyrie Irving. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. Kyrie's battle tested. He's, the whole FIBA. He already did this like 8 years ago when they needed it. So I would go Kyrie Irving. I mean, one, he's a hell of a lot of fun to watch play. And I know in that team setting of all the stars, he'll make the right plays. He's not going to force it. And he's got that killer instinct too. Not to say Jalen doesn't, but I mean, Kyrie is Kyrie. Like, he's done this before on a high platform too. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going Kyrie too. Kyrie, from a basketball, if you talk about basketball skills, just he should have been on the team in the first place. First of all, he should have been on Team USA to begin with. You don't get a guy who's more offensively gifted than Kyrie Irving in the NBA. There's nobody. So Kyrie, in comparison to Jalen Brunson, if you're putting them up against each other, Kyrie is the more gifted player. I don't think it's much of a question. I think he's got shooting over him. I think he's got the finishing over him and the ball handling. I think he's just a better offensive player. Jalen Brunson is amazing, but it's no shame that you don't match up to Kyrie Irving in that way. He's just that good at the game. He's just that good. So if you put Kyrie Irving on that Team USA, he exponentially increases your chances to win gold. I mean, he just helps you, right? And he's had success overseas before, like Miles said, he's battle tested. But I don't even think it's much of a debate. If I'll take Kyrie Irving skill wise over Steph Curry, skill wise again, say it 3 times for people. If I'm willing to do that, then I gotta take him over Jalen Brunson. I'm just saying that, and it's not just about the skill aspect. He would fit seamlessly in with what they're trying to do. And so will Jalen Brunson, right? And they could win gold with Jalen Brunson. But I really, really like the idea of Kyrie being there. Kyrie's to be motivated to play defense. He's about the right things. He's more mature. He's a different guy. He seems a bit different. Now, watch him go post some crazy stuff tonight on Twitter. God said that. But he's a different guy. Different guy as far as I can see. So he deserves that credit. And USA shouldn't hold it against him that, the previous stuff he did in Brooklyn. I don't think that's fair. Although if he went overseas and said something crazy about Palestine or something, it would be a problem. So I understand that somewhat, but I think he'd be fine. I really do. You muted, bro.
Well, we had to wait, about, what was it, 5.5 weeks. Christmas almost came early. We had the July 4th fireworks. You mentioned Palestine. They actually had a ceasefire. They're all at peace now. Before Kendrick Lamar came back with his response, a 15-minute response called Euphoria. It was some mixed reviews. Some people liked this. Some people said, hey, Drake better come correct this next time around. Some people said it was garbage. It was trash. What was y'all takes on the Euphoria diss track by Kendrick Lamar? Because I hate you. I hate the way you walk. I hate the way you smell.
I thought it was a good diss track, man. I thought objectively it was a really good diss track. Really, really good. 6 minutes is long, and Kendrick has a way of doing that and, making his songs layered. I think that's the best way to kind of describe him. And he definitely did that here. And I think he attacked Drake from a lot of different places, which is what you want to do in a diss track. So I don't have a problem with Kendrick's diss track. I think it was really good. I think there's genius in what he does, and there's genius in what he did in Euphoria. I think if you want to grade out round one, unlike everybody else, I'm gonna count Taylor Made Freestyle. I've been hearing some old rap purists, Ebro and them guys, rule out Taylor Made because he had taken down because Tupac State wasn't really rocking with it. Me, I'm gonna count it, and I love the creativity that he had in Taylor Made Freestyle, and along with push-ups. When you combine both of them, I think it's a draw in round one. I think it's a draw. I think that Drake again outproduced Kendrick in the sense that he made more. Kendrick went quality over quantity, which is great. I think Drake drops quality while giving you quantity at the same time. Euphoria is a better diss record than any one of those two songs alone. But when you combine them, in my opinion, the fact that he gave you both, and it was the creativity behind Tailor Made, I'm gonna put it at a draw. If you want to give Kevin K Dot the round one by a hair, I'm willing to hear you out because I think Euphoria was that good. It was a really good diss track. But for me, I'm counting Tailor Made, and that's the way I kind of see it as well. And there's other things about this whole, the discourse around this battle that bothers me. I think the Kendrick Lamar fans are coming off a little bit arrogant, in my opinion, because you're acting as if like people who don't like his music would only not like his music because they couldn't understand it. And I think that's unfair. I think Kendrick's music is not for everybody. Drake's music is more appealing to the ear. It is. It just is. Sonically, it sounds better. I don't think it's as much of a debate. I think the popularity that Drake has says that. I truly believe that. I think that, I think when you win an Artist of the Decade award and all these different things, and you have the popularity he has, it speaks to the way that his music makes people feel, and the fact that people enjoy his music. Not that people don't enjoy Kendrick's, but it's a different experience sonically. So that's the way I kind of look at it. We can talk about this and what Kendrick said, but I'm gonna give this round a draw. I like Tailor Made more than most.
I mean, Tailor Made was cool. I don't know. I kind of don't want to count it at all in this whole
people saying that
debate. Because one, I think this all started. I mean, they could say first-person shooter. I don't think he was. Sure, there were maybe sly subliminals in there, but this all started with Like That on the Metro Future album, and it was real pointed at who he was talking to, and that was Drake. And down the line somewhere, J. Cole thought, I'll get in this. Nah, I see where this is headed. I'm not getting this. I'm not getting this. Which was a smart decision because, yeah, now they're going to start digging up stuff. Now this is like, I think this is round one. Now we're in round two because I think Push-Ups versus Like That. Push-Ups versus Like That, I think I would have to give it to Like That just because of the shock value of how you don't even know who's on the album. You don't even know who's on the song until you hear, oh shoot, that's Kendrick. And he's coming crazy. And this song has been like at the top of the charts for the last month. And the radio's playing it. So it's not like it's not getting radio play. It's getting constant radio play. And sure, it came out that the label that Drake is under put out a cease and desist, on Like That. So there's that. But I think round two just popped off with Euphoria because I think even that is Kendrick can go deeper than that. He was just digging. He was just, doing what Kendrick does. He can rap. Like that's the thing. People should know that Kendrick can rap. Drake can rap too. And this is turned into a whose side are you on, Drake or Kendrick? Drake or Kendrick? And I'm just enjoying the kind of sport of it. It's like that's the main thing that people should kind of look at is this is really a sport in a genre of music. Like we got that in Jay-Z and Nas all those years ago with Renegade, all these different songs that were ugly in the time, and I'm sure they look back at it now and they laugh and they're like, yeah, that was crazy. I can't believe we were going back and forth. But that's the thing. When you have two giants at the top of a sport or at the top of a genre, there's going to be some clashing. And it was only a matter of time. Like, he did that Control verse years ago. I mean, Drake kind of brushed it off to the side because, I mean, at the time, he was way bigger than Kendrick. So it just looked like he was trying to get, clout off of his name. But now, I mean, as the years have gone on, I feel like Drake has gotten a little more like he doesn't give a fuck. I mean, I'm sorry. But like he doesn't care. Like he's not afraid of the battle. He's not afraid of the war in rap. And I'm just enjoying this. And I can't wait till whatever Drake drops because I mean it's gonna either be a great song or we're gonna get great bars or both. That's what we should really be worried about. It's like the music is gonna be top level because there's a lot of focus on each song. Like you're not doing an album rollout and it's like, all right, I'll put this on the album. I need to fill out my album. Like, no, these are like Eminem said, one chance you got. This is your shot. Like, come on, make it happen. So
I mean, yeah, I think there's brilliance in the way that both those guys approach it. I think, you know, I've heard the argument, and I think Kendrick, one of his main problems with Drake is kind of like, oh yeah, well, you know, you don't respect, you know, rap, you know, and you're not a rap purist. I think there's a lot of that kind of hostile energy from him about that stuff, right? Like it's like it's this idea that Drake is somehow culture vultured his way in this rap game, and he's, you know, he doesn't give back to rap, to give back to the origins of rap. Doesn't, you know, he's not socially conscious and all these things, and there's a lot of that. And I think that, you know, that was never Drake's end goal when he set out to this to start his career. And you know, when he, you know, came, you know, got started. Look, man, I mean, the first hit song I ever heard by Drake, man, was Best I Ever Had. I mean, not for me, that was the first one. And from that moment, you knew this guy's different. He's not the same. It's not like you're not listening to Fab. You're not listening to Jay-Z. You're not even, yeah, it's not even Jay-Z. His ability to harmonize and make hooks that are infectious and really make great songs that people are going to want to listen to, but also still have substance, just not talking about the things that maybe you want to hear. Maybe he not going to talk to you about the wage gap. Okay, he ain't gonna do that. He ain't gonna talk to you about racial inequality in his music. He's not gonna do that. But it's relatable music. I think people describing it as fun. I've been hearing a lot of that, cute, fun. Like, you know, people who hate on Drake, they're gonna take this opportunity to really crap on him here. And I think that's a bit ridiculous. His music's not simple. It's not simple. It's layers. It's got his own layers. Is it as sophisticated as Kendrick Lamar? No. No, it's about what you're looking for in each artist and what you're looking for in the music you listen to. But I think they're both brilliant. I think that no one's going to win this rap battle in the end. I think because the way I look at it is Drake fans are going to be Drake fans, and they're going to ride with Drake. He's got stands and stand culture. He's got stands, and Kendrick has his stands too. And Drake's got more stands than Kendrick does, which is why, you know, when Complex said, hey, which song is better, Push Ups or Euphoria? Like, it was close. It was like a damn near 50% split. Euphoria is a better song, guys. I mean, it is. It's not a question. This is why I said I count Taylor Made. Because I think it has to be somewhere in this equation. It has to matter that he did that. It can't just go away. You know, he knew that the Tupac estate would want that. They wanted taken offline immediately, and he still dropped it. It was a calculated move. He wanted it out there. He wanted it to be a part of the equation. He knew what he was doing. It was calculated. So I counted. But, you know, the only thing about the Kendrick diss that I don't love is the "you can't say the N-word no more. You can't say nigga no more." Right, why am I saying N-word? We not on FCC Airways. You can't say nigga no more. I don't love that. I don't love the whole, like, you know, you're not black enough thing that Rick Ross was pressing on, and now that Kendrick seems to be playing off of as well. I'm not a fan of that. Drake's a black man in my book, and I think I understand where he's coming from, or it's like, you know, Drake can kind of dabble in both worlds, and he's culturally, you know, he's maybe, you know, he doesn't come from what Kendrick comes from. He doesn't come from what a lot of these rappers come from. It's different being mixed, being raised by a white mom, right? It's different, but Drake is still dominant in the space, and I think the versatility is what I love about Drake. So I personally don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with him trying different things. I never felt like he was offensive in anything he's ever done. I've never felt that way. And trust me, if I could find the reason to think that to hold that against you, I would. And so I just don't. I don't with Drake, and I think that that's a bit ridiculous. And I think there's something to be said for some of the fact that Kendrick said a lot of things that other people have said, but he also had some new things like the restaurant that Drake got robbed at, in Toronto and all that stuff. So he had some nice little digs in there, man. It was a good diss. I can't wait to see what's next. I think Drake's gonna come back with something because remember he egged them on a Taylor Made, so he wanted that smoke with Taylor Made, and so I'm excited to see what he comes with next and where it goes. I think Drake's gonna come with not only a sophisticated diss, where it probably his best diss ever, but it'll be a great song, and that's what I'm really excited about. Like Miles said, so I'll leave it there. But I thought this is great for the game and great for music altogether.
One thing that you can definitely say between both of these people's careers, Kendrick, Drake, they always, when the time came, they was ready. When it was time to put out that great music, they performed. They showed up and showed out. Same thing here at Bench Mob. If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. Bench Mob, we out. Peace.
Peace. Good.